The waves crashed violently against the rocky shore, a chilling wind howling through the California coastline. A lone figure stood at the edge of a secluded cliff, staring at the dark abyss below. Clint Eastwood, a man who would one day become a Hollywood legend, was at his lowest. His fingers trembled, his heart pounded, and a storm raged inside him, one that even he, the invincible cowboy of the silver screen, couldn't seem to tame. At that moment, Clint wasn't a hero. He wasn't a star. He was just a young man, lost and defeated, contemplating the unthinkable. But what had driven him here? Before he became the symbol of rugged masculinity, Clint Eastwood was just another struggling actor drowning in rejections. He had spent years bouncing between small roles, each one slipping through his fingers like grains of sand. His confidence had taken hit after hit. Casting directors told him he was too tall, too stiff, that he spoke too slowly. Some even laughed at the idea of him ever becoming a leading man. Bills piled up. Friends who once encouraged him started drifting away. His bank account was nearly empty. He slept on couches, surviving on cheap meals and daydreams of stardom. Then came the final blow. Universal Studios, the only place that had given him a shred of hope, dropped him from their contract. No warning, no explanations. Just a cold, impersonal decision that crushed him. With no prospects, no money, and no one left to believe in him, Clint found himself staring at the merciless ocean, wondering if this was the end. As Clint stood there, his mind replayed every failure, every moment he had felt like an outsider in the industry. He could almost hear the voices of his critics echoing in the wind. He clenched his fists, anger and despair battling inside him. Then something shifted. A memory surfaced, one that had been buried under the weight of disappointment. It was from his time in the Army. He had been just a kid, a military passenger on a Douglas AD bomber when the plane malfunctioned and crashed into the Pacific Ocean. The impact was brutal, but Clint had survived. He had swum through freezing waters, battling exhaustion for miles until he reached the shore. That was the first time Clint Eastwood had faced death, and he had chosen to fight. His own words echoed in his mind. "If I could survive that night in the ocean, I can survive this." Something inside him clicked. He had made it through the worst before. Why should this be any different? Clint stepped back from the cliff's edge. The cold wind still bit at his skin, but now he felt something else, a flicker of fire reigniting inside him. That night, he made a decision. He wasn't going to let Hollywood determine his worth. He was going to carve his own path, no matter what it took. With renewed determination, Clint threw himself into self-improvement. He studied acting on his own terms. He spent hours watching films, analyzing performances, and practicing his delivery. He started writing, creating the kind of roles he wanted to play. When doors slammed shut, he built new ones. Years passed, and Clint's persistence paid off. He landed a role in Rawhide, a Western TV series that finally gave him steady work. But he wasn't content with just being a working actor. He wanted more. He wanted control over his career, over the kinds of stories he told. Then came the opportunity that changed everything. A fistful of dollars. The role wasn't glamorous, it was low budget, filmed in Italy, and almost no one in Hollywood took it seriously. But Clint saw something in it. He took a risk and accepted the role, bringing his own unique style to the character. The film exploded in popularity, turning Clint Eastwood into an international star. He followed it up with The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Dirty Harry, and countless other films that cemented his status as a Hollywood icon. But Clint didn't just become a successful actor. He became a visionary. He stepped behind the camera, directing films that defied expectations. He took risks, told stories that mattered, and redefined what it meant to be a filmmaker. His journey became a testament to resilience, proving that rejection isn't the end, it's a redirection. Every time Hollywood doubted him, Clint answered not with words, but with action. He built an empire on the very foundation of failure. Years later, when asked about his struggles, Clint didn't dwell on the pain. Instead, he simply said, "Sometimes you have to go through the storm to see how strong you really are." The story of Clint Eastwood is more than just one of fame and fortune. It's about the power of perseverance. The same man who once stood at the edge of despair became one of the most respected figures in the industry. Not because he had an easy journey, but because he refused to quit when life pushed him down. And the twist? The very thing Hollywood once mocked, the slow, deliberate speech, the stoic expressions, the unconventional presence, became the defining traits that made him legendary. Sometimes the thing that makes you different is the very thing that will set you apart. And sometimes the lowest point in your life isn't the end. It's just the beginning of your greatest story. So the next time you feel like giving up, remember Clint Eastwood. Remember the young man who stood at the edge of failure and chose to fight. Because in the end, it's not about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you get back up.